Here we go. Brian.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Brian Lane. I'm a retired technology education teacher. And today's session is opportunities in Ohio TSA. TSA standing for Technology Student Association. Today we have with us Todd Hummer, who is the state TSA advisor for Ohio. He currently teaches at Lakota East High School, and he's got at least one student with him, a state student club officer, right, Todd? So
yes.
I
Two
will
students. I have Jack and Ilias, two seniors that are state officers this year.
Okay, there you go. So those two are state officers, and at that, then I will let Todd take over. And welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, if that's okay. Actually, yeah, let me go here. Okay. Well, I'm not going to talk a lot about, myself here. I'd like to talk about the students, let them talk a little bit and just introduce a little bit about how we got here in Ohio in terms of TSA. So this is, I think, my 24th year of teaching. I'm a traditional, my degree is in technology education. So, like many of you retired teachers, you probably have taught a little bit of everything, right? So I'm the same way. I fall in the same boat, which is really what I kind of like to do. It's exciting to just do different things and learn, and it stays so fresh that way. So anyway, I'm employed by Butler Tech in Southwest Ohio, but I'm a satellite teacher in Lakota East. I teach engineering, juniors and seniors, and I love it. So about 10 years ago, Butler Tech came in and absorbed many of the districts in the county, their whole tech ed departments. And I was lucky to have that opportunity to join them. And it was right at the time they were starting Project Lead the Way programs, which maybe you're familiar with. So we were starting it in our district at the 7th grade level. And so I had to bump down from the high school down and teach 7th grade, design and modeling, Project Lead the Way. And so we were tasked at the time, back different rules of Perkins 5 funding and things like that. And also just for experience for our students, we were tasked with joining a CTSO. And so I was a part of that first, initial push to investigate and figure out what was best for our programs at Butler Tech. And we went with TSA. We found that TSA was most aligned with, with what we did with our Project Lead the Way courses. We really loved that they used Vex robotics. We also really loved, since I was middle school at the time, that they had a great offering of competitions at the middle school level. And both these gentlemen that I have here with me today are also, they competed as junior high students and did very well. So if you see that timeline there, we were starting from scratch at the time. TSA in Ohio was dormant, vacant, however you want to call it. They had, TSA years ago, but it has just, it wasn't, didn't have any affiliated chapters for years. And so we kind of started it back up just with our own little group at Butler Tech. We had 6 schools and held our own little competition at the end of the year and gave the kids a taste of nationals. And from there, it has really kind of blown up. We are still mostly Southwest Ohio, but it's growing. We have some big vocational schools, including Great Oaks in Hamilton County and Greene County Vocational Career Center up in Dayton area. So, obviously last year was kind of crazy for everybody, and we had virtual competitions and things like that. People didn't really dive in like they would. So I really think that, I think the TSA in Ohio is going to continue to grow, and that could be as early as this year. A lot of people, a lot of districts, new schools are expressing interest in seeing what we do. Over the past few years, I just took over as state advisor a couple of years ago, but over the past couple of years, we have worked towards just becoming a more legitimate operation at the state level. With everything you have to do there, with nonprofit, with forming bylaws, establishing board of directors, even state officers. We never had state officers before officially until this year. And that's kind of where Jack and Ilias came in. But the thing that I love about TSA, and I'll get into this a little bit more, but it teaches our kids to compete. I come from a sports background, playing sports, coaching sports. And, that's the one thing that I felt like when I stopped doing all that and got into the classroom was that, I think that having our kids compete, having that goal at the end, having those nerves, even as young junior high students, and learning how to manage those and having them, using those as motivation is so important to where, you can drive them to achieve, above and beyond what they would normally achieve in a classroom. That's a picture there of my old classroom at the junior high level. And I treated TSA like a sport. We hang banners just like you would in a gymnasium. We have trophies, we have anything we could do to not only shine a light on the great things that these kids are doing, but also use it as a motivational tool. So those are some of the basic overall general history of TSA since I've been around, but kind of why we do it also. So I have two students here, Jack and Ilias, who I don't have. They're not going to brag about themselves, but and I'm not going to brag about them either. But they're both, way up there. It's just some of the smartest kids we have at Lakota East and best all around kids, and they've been involved in TSA for since they were in middle school. And they're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to get them on early in the call here just because they're busier than any of us are. The schedule that these kids keep up and, to achieve everything they do at such a high level is super, super impressive. So I'm going to let them just both kind of share a little bit about their TSA experience. And please feel free. I told them that this is very informal. And feel free to jump in with questions and make this more of a discussion if you would like. But Jack and Ilias, if you guys want to unmute and kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves, that's great.
All right, I guess I'll start. Hi, I'm Jack. I'm a senior at Lakota East High School, and I've been in the engineering program, and I've been competing in TSA since 7th grade, so a while. I guess I'll start by going over some of the competitions I've done. In 8th grade, I competed in, I don't even know exactly what it was called, but we called it CAD. It was a CAD-based competition where you would show up on the spot and you would design, you'd be given like an orthographic sketch. Is that the right word? It's been a while, but you'd be given a sketch and you'd have to recreate that sketch in a CAD program like Inventor or AutoCAD or something like that. And then you'd have to present that to the judges. And so I won state for that and then competed in nationals and didn't place, but that was still a really good experience. The next year I competed with a team in a competition called Webmasters. The goal was to create our website, which we did. and we won state for that again and went to nationals. At nationals, we competed in two competitions. Webmasters was one, and then the other was on-demand video, um, which was a competition where we went there and we were given a prompt on the first day, and we had until I think we had like 2 or 3 days to create a video that related to that prompt, a 1 minute video. And so yeah, we competed in both of those. Um, my sophomore and junior year, we didn't really have TSA nationals, so we didn't get a chance to go then. But we're looking forward to competing this year also. Ilias, if you want to go.
Hello, my name's Ilyas Malik. I'm also a senior at Lakota East with Jack. I first started TSA in 8th grade, and my competition was Systems Control Technology. It was mainly composed of you were given a prompt and you had to construct a robot and also code the robot using bags to solve that problem that they give you. So I worked with a team of 3. We ended up winning state, and then we got first place at nationals that year in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think TSA is a great thing for students that are interested in the STEM field, because a lot of like other classes, it's more based on like academic, but once you like practice TSA, you get with students that are like-minded and also interested in the STEM field, and you can work together on projects and then practice competing and actually applying that knowledge you learned in class against the knowledge of everyone around you, so you can actually like kind of understand more of what the field's going to be like and like find people who you have to work with throughout your academic years.
Yeah, I'll say I definitely agree. TSA is really valuable experience, um, because it's sort of like an application of your knowledge. You don't necessarily, I know some schools don't offer a bunch of STEM related courses, but you don't even have to be in an engineering class to be able to compete in some of these engineering competitions, because a lot of them use knowledge that might not be taught in class, but it's still useful to know and you can figure out without having a super formal education on the topic. Now, some of them you do need a super formal education. Like if you're going to compete in Vex robotics, you need to know how to code a Vex robot. But there's other projects where like you're building a bridge. You don't need to take a class on bridge building to do that. You can learn how to do that without taking the class. So there's a lot of options there. And yeah, like Ilias said, it really lets people play into their strengths and find other people who have really similar interests to them. Not even just in their school, but also all over the.
I have a couple of questions, Jack and Elias. In your school, what was a class meeting like? So a club meeting, what did that look like? What did you do in school or in your club after school meetings, or did you do them during class to help you prepare for your competitions?
So it really depends. Oh, Elias, if you want to go.
Okay, so for me, in 8th grade, it was more of a class-based TSA competition. So we had a robotics class that we learned Vex and built robotics, and then our teacher picked a team to work towards the solution of the TSA competition. And then when we got a little bit older and more in like freshman year, we started going to a TSA club after school. So we would go to the club and like practice doing like solving problems, like different challenges with teammates. You know, like building a bridge, or like trying to make something the tallest using like popsicle sticks, that type of thing. And then pick the project that we started working on for TSA throughout the year. And that's moved to high school. Now we have an engineering club that you find your TSA competition, you work with a couple people, and then you like throughout the year you work on design and then like planning on how you're going to do it and how to solve that problem. So it kind of graduated from like just in class to also being after school. But we do also have classes that we take at our school with Mr. Hummer where we work on skills in class and like digital electronics or computer integrated manufacturing that help us work on those TSA competitions.
Yeah, I'll say in my experience, I went to a different middle school than Ilias. In middle school, in terms of the actual TSA competitions, at least for me, none of it was in class. We had an engineering club after school that met once a week, and that's when you would work on it. Although a lot of the middle school competitions are a little more show up and compete than like ones that you do preparation for beforehand, although there are some where you prepare a project before you go. My freshman year, at East there's a separate freshman campus, so freshmen aren't in the same building as the rest of the high schoolers. Um, so our engineering club was not very organized, not much really went on there, especially for my group, because our project was a lot more coding based than actually building something. So we didn't get much work done there. A lot of our work got done. We would stay after in Mr. Hummer's room, or some of us were taking a programming class and would work on it in class. Um, I'll say East specifically has a program our sophomore year where everyone who's taking the sophomore level Principles of Engineering class competes in VEX. And we hold a competition at East, and then the winners of that competition can go compete at state. I think that's something that we're still doing this year. It's been 2 years since I've taken the class, but we have that. But we also have an engineering club that meets pretty much every week, Thursdays after school, that is almost entirely revolving around TSA, where kids will go and they'll pick a project at the beginning of the year, like Elias said, and they'll work on it all year, or they'll pick a competition that you just show up for, and they'll prepare for that project during the year by doing stuff like practice problems, stuff like that.
So in your clubs for your school, do you have class officers like you do at the state level, or are you just a group of students preparing?
Yeah, we have officers. The roles aren't super tight, but we have like a president, vice president, treasurer, reporter, secretary, and sergeant at arms. Which is just like how the TSA, I think its bylaws state that like you're supposed to have these 6 positions. At the state level, we don't really have those positions this year because there are only 3 of us on state student leadership, but eventually we'll move into using those positions once we have more applicants applying to be on state leadership.
Are you guys both going to pursue a STEM career?
Yes.
Yes. Right now, I'm planning on studying mechanical engineering.
Cool.
I'm leaning towards mechanical engineering also. Specifically, if I can go to UC San Diego, they have mechanical engineering with a focus in environmental science and renewable energy, and that's kind of my top choice right now.
Did you have a feeling you were going to get into that like really early, or has the TSA kind of encouraged you to think that way?
Mine, it's sort of by coincidence. In 7th grade, I found out all my friends were signing up for engineering club, and so I signed up for it, and then I liked it a bunch, and I've been planning on going into engineering ever since.
Okay, so it did influence your decision.
And for me, it was also kind of by coincidence. Like I started off in TSA, and then I had a little bit of a break, but then I couldn't take one of my classes that I signed up for, and I ended up moving towards taking the engineering classes at East, which moved me to find that I really enjoy mechanical engineering. So thanks to Mr. Hummer that I'm into this field now.
Cool. Do you find that TSA, do you think TSA is going to help you get it in your college applications, like as your resume, or getting a foot in the door in some of these engineering schools?
I think so. I think it helps show that you're actually like participating and you're already like getting into the field, trying to learn more in your own time and not just taking the normal classes and then like thinking, oh, I'm going to see what this is like in college. You already know what you're getting into. So it's like shows that you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah, great. Thank
It's
you.
also really important because it can get you connected with a lot of different people. Like I know state conferences and especially national conferences, you're seeing people from in-state all over the state and at nationals all over the whole country.
Yeah.
Who are also interested in engineering. So it's a really good way to make a lot of connections with people. And sometimes those people have other connections down the chain.
Have any of the universities that do engineering got a hold of you or tried to recruit you because you're in the TSA?
I mean, I don't think I've gotten anything specifically because of TSA.
Okay.
But it's just one of those things that helps out.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys.
And then one last question, kind of to where you were going, Jack, on the national competition. What what's your biggest takeaway? Anything, either with your competition or just meeting all those people that you can talk about the national TSA conference?
I'll
Jack,
say
you
it
know,
was
so
really fun for me. I had a great time both times that I went. It was really nice because it gets you out of Ohio, so you're out competing in some other part of the country. The 2 years I competed were in 8th grade, it was held in Atlanta, and in 9th grade, it was held in DC. So it was just cool to get to kind of travel to different places. It also, yeah, it was really valuable getting to meet and just see other engineering students from all over the country and just see how many people are interested in this field. And especially when coming from like East, our engineering program in my senior class is like there's less than 100 people who are in that engineering program. So it's nice to see the potentially thousands of people all over the country who are super interested in TSA and are good at what they do. And it's really good to see connections. And it's also just a good competition that pushes you to like do your best. I mean, competing nationally, I'm sure Ilyas can attest to, it was probably a great feeling to win nationals. And just, yeah, pushing yourself. And if you're on a team, pushing your team to get better at engineering and get better at STEM in general.
Yeah, I feel like Nashville is pretty eye-opening because like you didn't expect that many people to be there. And like when I first walked into my competition room, I saw hundreds of kids all set up on the table. So I was like, oh, this is actually a really big event. This is not like back in Ohio where it's just a couple teams against each other. This is like hundreds of different teams all competing for this one spot. So it really shows that there's a lot of interest in STEM across the nation.
great, thank you.
Any other questions for the boys before we let them go?
No. Thanks for participating, fellas.
thanks.
It's great.
Yeah, appreciate it, Jack. Anybody else? All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, see you, boys.
Thanks,
All
thanks,
right.
guys.
Good luck.
Yeah, those kids are super impressive students. I don't I knew that they would be pretty humble, but yeah, they're the types of kids that get the most I mean, I don't want to say the most out of it. They take our whole program up a level. We have so many good kids that follow students like those that in their lead when it comes to TSA, when they're like, wow, these kids are serious about TSA. They love it. Had a great experience. Like, wow, I want to do that. So they've just been great ambassadors for it ever since they've been in junior high. And we have a lot of kids like that. So I'm glad that they had a chance to come on. I'm going to jump back into the presentation, but please make this more of a discussion than it is a presentation. If you'd like, stop me at any time, ask questions. We'll just talk freely if that works for you. So yeah, those are our officers. Like I said, we have 3 of them. We just happen to get 3 super, incredible students though. They're outstanding. The list of schools that they're considering next year is unbelievably impressive. But their goal, this is the first year we've had officers, their whole goal is to try to put forth a framework and structure where we can continue building the state officer team and adding to responsibilities and, eventually contributing to sustaining a really healthy organization. And they've done a pretty good job so far this fall, even as busy as they are. So you guys are probably familiar with all of the CTSOs that we have in Ohio. When we first went to consider, what our best direction was, it came down to, we're obviously engineering and STEM based. So it came down to TSA and skills. I mentioned before that we love the Project Lead the Way ties. We love the different competitions that, that they offered at the high school and middle school level, including VEX and teams and some of the others. So that's why we decided TSA. And TSA is much more affordable than many of the others. I don't know off the top of my head about the others, but I remember when we looked into them, that we felt some of the others were a lot steeper than what it cost to affiliate with TSA. So that was a big plus also.
To tie into that then, Todd, can you tell us, I know there's 3 different levels, and I'm assuming there still are 3 different levels of TSA
Affiliation.
for the affiliations for this year. Can you just give us a
Yeah,
little rundown of
let me
that?
jump around here.
Yeah.
I have a slide on that.
Oh, okay. Well,
And there you go. So yeah, 3 different levels of affiliation. Red is if you just have a few students that want to try it out, up to 10, it's $10 a student. You have to pay for all 10 though. It's not, a la carte individual. If you only have 3, it's still, you pay for the full 10. Plus each state has state dues that go towards just the management of the whole program. A lot of that money goes towards the state event, the state conference, those costs. So that's red. White is meant for 11 to about 25 students is what is kind of the break point, I think, to where if you have over 25, it's more feasible. It makes it fiscally, responsible to jump up to the blue cap. And blue cap is unlimited. So you pay that fee of $400 for the blue cap, and you can affiliate your whole program. That's what most programs do, is they'll affiliate everybody that they have, in their classes or in their club or, whatever, because they can do as many as they want. So that's a total of $550. A lot of programs, some of them fundraise for those fees. I know that we do at our school. We run an engineering booth at the craft show where we sell things that we've made that more than pays for that. Everybody kind of gets creative. I know that there are some districts that pay their affiliation costs for them. So it all just kind of depends. When you affiliate, January 1st is the affiliation deadline. Last year we, extended it because of COVID, and may do the same this year. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see how the fall goes, but that's, not really to put a rush on people, but it's more to just give us a better idea of what we can expect at, at the state competition level and what our numbers are going to look like. So do you guys have any questions about affiliation costs?
No.
that was what I was looking at.
Okay, great. I'm going to jump back here. So they have 70 plus middle and high school competitions. That is overwhelming. We have never offered, well, we've always offered them. We have never had, students register for, I think last year we maybe had, we were in the 30s somewhere, 30 different competitions that we held at the high school and middle school level. And that's a lot to manage. And to be honest, with the small, affiliation like ours, statewide, a lot of those competitions didn't have a whole large number of teams or individuals enter. Some of them was just one team. We still tried to do our best to judge that competition and give them valuable feedback for those students. But we'll get into the bulk of a lot of our competitions here. So we hold a state event, and we were virtual last year, so it was kind of all over the map in terms of dates and times and what we did. But ideally, if we're back in person this year, we are going to have a 1 to 2 day event with everything. That's my goal. That would look like maybe a Friday, Saturday, where students would get out of school Friday for the event. We have held it at Butler Tech at their School of the Arts. Is a great facility that has an auditorium and a bunch of classrooms and lobby. And so they've been gracious in working with us there. And that's what we're going to hopefully do again this year. We don't hold regional events at this point. A lot of the larger TSA states do. We just don't have the need for it. We're not large enough yet, and most of our, affiliates are in Southwest Ohio, so that has worked out so well so far. But we may have to visit that in the future.
So how would you recommend then a high school or middle school choosing their teams to go to the state competitions if that's not a regional competition?
Yeah, we try to, for the events that are larger, we will put a restriction depending on, we will put a restriction on the number of teams that each chapter can send to the state. So what, ideally happens is that they'll run a local event at their school, kind of like Jack mentioned our VEX team does, and that they'll send their top 1 or 2 in each event, depending on the event, all throughout the year as I'm gauging numbers, and we'll, to see what we can handle and manage reasonably. I'll have, when we start registering for state, I'll have limits for chapters. And sometimes that's, for our larger ones, it might be 1 or 2 teams or individuals. For some of the, maybe less attended events, it could be unlimited. If I know that, hey, there's this one school out there that they really put a focus on flight endurance, and they have 7 out of the 8 best, projects in the whole state. Well, I'm not going to tell them, no, only send me your best, because it's not that heavily of attended event. I'll open it up. So that's just an example. And, we're growing and changing every year. So this is something that I lean on our board for, and other chapter advisors, that we've been able to manage. We're still small enough. We've been able to manage that pretty well up to this point.
I have a question about individual events or activities. Are there manuals that describe the expectation and process for each competition?
Yes, that's a great question. First, let me start with let me start with the TSA site is super informative for high school and middle school competitions in terms of what they offer. But to get into the nuts and bolts of it, you're required to affiliate first.
Mm-hmm.
So if you browse through, these are the high school competitions where it gives a brief write-up of each about what they can expect, just basic overall topical stuff for every event that they offer. These are, pretty static from year to year. But another thing that their site does offer is up under competitions and programs, they have themes for each year. So not every competition has a theme, but many of them do. And their themes are new every year and fresh, and it gives the kids direction on, kind of a design brief of what they're going to do. Let's see, like architectural usually has one. So architectural has this design problem where, it'll give you a background. It's about national parks. Here's the problem. Here's what you're expected to do. That's specific to that event. And the other ones have those. But in terms of more detailed descriptions, anytime the chapter affiliates, they're given their own login where they can get into the Total TSA site, which has event, guides for every one of these, all the way from, pitching the project to what expectations are, to portfolio requirements, to the rubrics that the judges are actually going to use to score these events. So that's where a lot of the more detailed information comes. And it's the same way for high school and middle school, if that makes sense.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know, maybe you got it from Jack and Ilias there, but boy, the big, you can't underestimate the value of these kids to get to go to national conferences. And, I've been to them since we've started, and it is eye-opening, like Ilyas said. When you walk in that room, and you see 7,000, 8,000 kids dressed up in those long sleeve TSA shirts, it's just a sea of students, and it's really impressive. It is. And to get, they do an awesome job getting these kids to mingle and having icebreakers and, meet and greets where, a lot of our kids, especially middle school kids, they've never met students from, other states. And, to get them to trade pins with them and some of the other things they do, they just think it's the coolest thing in the world. And really that has been from the time that I started this when I was in middle school to now, where we still have so many students that that has been their hook, that maybe not them specifically, but they know somebody that went. They could come back and tell them what it was like and how much fun they had. And that really helps to keep people involved as well. This year it's going to be in Dallas area at the Gaylord. And we've been, they're smart. They pick fun, good cities where, if the kids have a free day, we go and do fun things. Been to Orlando and Atlanta and Nashville and DC and now Dallas. So it's a great time, and it's really, a driving force for these students to want to do their best. I want to just focus on a couple of the what I would call the foundation competitions that we always have a big following, and what we felt tied best to a lot of our engineering programs or STEM related programs. And they're listed there. I'm not going to read them to you, but what I want to point out, and Jack kind of mentioned it earlier, is two different types of events. One of them is, a show up and compete, where it's a challenge. You have to design and build something in 2.5 hours that does this, this, and this. And if you win, you get to move on, or a CAD competition. There are several like that. There are others that are kids work on, pretty much for months or even the whole year to be able to show up and compete. I have high school animatronics teams that they work on these things, or Vex Robotics, what that's like. They'll work on them for months and months and months. And they're just that detailed and that, that much of a requirement. So, and there's some in between, that are kind of in the middle. So it's a matter of finding what you really like to do, and what your kids have time to do and are going to be invested in. I put this picture up there because those are some middle school students that we had from Ohio, that ended up going to national, placed very high. I forget where they placed exactly, but maybe you gentlemen like me know that, boy, if you're an engineering related, course, for whatever reason, it's tough to keep those female students in your program. That's the biggest thing that I found when I was in the middle school was, first of all, those middle school females are incredible at these competitions. They're so detail oriented. They're so driven, and many of them did so well, or just the idea of doing some of these projects got them, just hooked. And many of them have continued to take engineering. They're still in engineering today. And I think it's because of TSA. And, it's not all traditional CAD competitions. There's a lot of competitions that allow them, to be a little more artistic, like children's stories. You're going to write a STEM children's book about certain topics, or STEM animation. So, I think that the middle school is super important, and TSA does a good job of appealing to all students and having more than just, like I said, AutoCAD or architecture competitions that might not appeal to everyone. So they do a good job there. The high school competitions, same thing, kind of our foundation right there. We try to relate them to our Project Lead the Way courses. I teach aerospace, and we always do flight endurance. I know some other teachers that teach Intro to Engineering Design, Project Lead the Way, and they replaced one of their projects with the dragster design and run those in class and can advance to go on to state. So those are, I picked those out specifically because those are a lot of the most heavily attended or most popular competitions that we have. And, we have a pretty good experience now where we have them kind of down, in the way that we run them, and they've gone very well. I do want to also talk about Vex Robotics. We're super lucky to work with the Milford Robotics Club. They're down here in Southwest Ohio, east of Cincinnati, and they're experts. I'm not a Vex expert at all. These people that run this, they are, and they compete at Vex at the state level, and they kind of offered to work with us on the state competition for TSA, and they're amazing. I mean, they do a job that we could never match, and they're super great. They work with our kids. They give all the teams help and advice following the competition, and the kids just network, and they end up walking out of that competition with whole new bit of ideas for next year. It's awesome. This year, one thing that we're going to do that I think is really fun that they offer to also run in their event is we're going to get into the 1 pound BattleBot competition. They call it the ant weight class, where it's all plastic, all 3D printed, little BattleBots, just like you would see on TV, except, the reason they wanted to do it and recommended it, which I think is great, was that it's just more accessible for most students. Most kids don't have the time or the budget or the knowledge, frankly, to do those big, huge BattleBots. So this is a great way for them to learn those concepts and have a lot of fun doing it. And I haven't put that out there yet to the rest of the state. We're still working on some of the ground rules, but that's one that I'm super excited about, and I think is probably going to take off and have a lot of interest from people.
Todd, again, what's the name of the mini ant class?
Ant weight is what they call it.
Ant weight.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the insect, and it's 1 pound. There's a 1 pound and a 3 pound class. They're looking to, hopefully this 1 pound will go well, and that they could possibly add a 3 pound class down the road. But you could watch them on YouTube. You get caught there. I was watching them all night. They're so much fun. They're just like the large ones on TV that are banging metal and cutting things, except they're this big. And they're a blast. You guys have any other questions about the competition?
Yeah, we should probably mention that too. Yeah, one of our members has a combat robot rink and arena challenge that he runs both at the National Robotics Challenge in Marion and also during the Ohio State Fair. So we probably should mention that ant category to him. It might be an additional thing he could build into his competitions.
Yeah, from what like I said, that's not my background, but from what I understand, this is something that's fairly new that is really catching on. For the reasons that I just said.
Mhm.
You're not putting thousands of dollars into these robots, to see how it ends up. So I think it's a great idea. All right. So I talked a little bit about VEX. Another couple programs that fall under the TSA umbrella are Teams and Junior Solar Sprint. Those are individual competitions that have partnered with TSA to run as a part of their national event and as part of our state events. Teams has been popular in Ohio for years, and we do get some affiliations from all over the state just so that their students can join teams. And if you're not familiar with that, it's just a great overall engineering competition. It includes instant challenges, or design challenges. It includes portfolios, tests, presentations, justifying designs. It runs throughout the course of a couple or several months, I believe. But that's one that is along with TSA. Also, Junior Solar Sprint, which is a blast. I have had students compete in that before. Really, really cool. It's at the junior high level where students have requirements of making these solar cars and shooting them down a track. They really get into that. There's the affiliation stuff. I skipped over some of these. I don't know that I really missed anything that we haven't touched on. Another thing that I wanted to get back into, there's some national TSA numbers there. It is a large organization. I can tell you that Ohio is around the middle of the pack in terms of affiliation, even though we're brand new. We have good numbers. Some of the larger states are Virginia, Florida, Georgia, Texas, to name a few, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, that have just humongous numbers. And I get to work with those advisors, quite a bit just to see how they run this organization. Just, as a side note, I'm not compensated to be the TSA state advisor. It's something that I took on because I believed in it, and my administrator signed up to get TSA going back in Ohio, and so kind of was by default the new state advisor, and he doesn't have time to do what this takes. Not that I do, but I offered to take it over. I didn't want to see it fail. I like what it does for our program. I'm probably, it's a lot of work, especially as we continue to grow. I'll probably look to hand it off at some point in the short-term future, but I want to make sure that I'm trying to do everything that I can do to, set the foundation for it to grow and be what it could be, because I think that it could be pretty big in the state of Ohio. I'm sure of it. But a lot of these other states, it's kind of different playing fields. They have full-time employees, either through their state Department of Ed or through universities that manage TSA. So I count on a lot of people to help. A lot of people like you, people like other advisors. We've been pretty fortunate with people stepping up to kind of help run this organization, as we continue to grow. So I had one more thing that I wanted to mention. You talk to the state officers about what this looks like in different schools, and I thought they did a pretty good job of answering it through their personal experiences. But the answer is that it's all different. It's different in every situation based off of a number of variables, of course. Me personally, I try to incorporate one or two projects into my class. It was easier at middle school than it is high school, that you could at least introduce this to students. And then what I would do is I had a club after school, and students, hey, if you're interested in this or want to make another one or a bigger one or better one, or you want to practice, then begin to start to come to club. I know another advisor that runs it strictly through his club. I know another engineering teacher that she requires the students to pick a TSA project and work on it for X number of days or weeks and enter it at the state level. So she'll have dozens of teams enter the state event in different things. And other people are kind of more hands off. They throw it out there to their students, and students will be on their own if they want to enter some of these, and they still do. So it just really looks different depending on where you are, what you're teaching, how much flexibility you have, and how much time you want to put in.
Great.
So yeah, I think that I know that I jumped around here quite a bit, but you know, what maybe is there something that I can go more in depth for
Ted
you?
had a question. Looking at the slides and seeing the pictures of the TSA students, what are the expectations now for what you might say a uniform or standard look among team members?
Well, that's a great question, because in Ohio, we have never required, we don't require uniforms. I know that, you know, I work with people that are in HOSA, and I know what they can spend on jackets and shirts and stuff like that. So for our state event, as we've grown the last 6 years, 7 years, I've never required a dress code. At the national level, they require these blue TSA shirts that are about $30 each. I know that Butler Tech was ahead of the game and really smart about this, and I know some HOSA programs do it too, is that they just started buying some for kids each year and ask for them back, so that now they have, you know, an inventory of just about every different size. And so they're finished buying shirts for their students that go to the national level. They are required to wear those. There are a handful of events at the national level that require blazers. And we have a handful of those as well on, you know, for people that need them. But I don't know. I'm considering for our state event this year to maybe include a TSA t-shirt in the student state registration, which I've never charged a state registration fee before, never had to, but I think that we're big enough now. We're to the point where we're going to feed them lunch, and, you know, I'd like to start to bring in maybe a guest speaker for opening ceremonies, things like that, where I may charge a small fee for state registration. Also, it holds the students a little more accountable. Make sure that, you know, hey, they signed up and said they were going to be here, and we staffed it with this many judges, and, you know, hey, they didn't get done, so they didn't show up. Well, you know, that might keep them a little more on track and want to attend. So that's my plan as of now.
I know I was a recent former TSA advisor for 3 years with Butler Tech. I had one student come to the state competition in CAD. The way I taught the class, it turned out to be he needed to know Inventor. He was given a competition where he had to design this project using Inventor, and this student had used Inventor for about 2 weeks and just
Oh, really?
blew it out of the water for me. He didn't win the competition, but for what he knew using the program for 2 weeks,
Wow.
it was really, really very, very good. So then I was like, okay, I probably should teach that in a little different order.
Well, actually, we have changed that to follow more of the national guidelines, where students can use the modeling program of their choice. So last year we've had kids use everything, even on even Onshape
Okay.
or Fusion. Yeah, so that can always be a tricky one.
Yeah. And then I had a club way back in the day in the early 80s. I had a TSA club when I first started teaching.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was involved way back, and I was at a conference and ran into a vendor at one of our national conferences, and he said, Mr. Lean, and he says, I'm like, oh, I know you. And we got to talking, and he still finally remembered state conference. He was a student of mine out in Harrison. We took him up to Akron to a state conference, and still remembers all the competitions that he competed in, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And so it can come back, 20 years later, and the student will see you and says, yeah, I'm doing this now. And I remember that TSA club. So it's a very, very valuable very valuable club. He thoroughly enjoyed it. Reminded me of something that, you know, happened on our drive back where he says, yeah, we almost got killed because
Yeah.
some car cut you off. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, don't need that. Can't drive like that anymore. But
Yeah.
Yeah, TSA has really been something that I did for a long time, stopped, and then got back into it when I joined Butler Tech. So
Yeah, it has been fascinating to hear your story about the rejuvenation of TSA, because as Brian mentioned, there is a long history of it, and Ohio was one of the original charter starting members back in, it was either 76 or 78
Wow, I didn't know that.
when the organization got started. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Would like to offer to you and to TSA, the OTEA does hold a technology and engineering showcase during the 12 days of the Ohio State Fair, where we have exhibits and booths and your live demonstrations and kids strutting
Okay.
their stuff. And we provide the the state fair tickets and access, so there's no cost to the groups coming in. But it'd be a great way to, well, you mentioned your one group is selling things. There is a opportunity to demo and as well as share information about the organization and projects and competitions you do, but there could also be some sales of student-made products.
Okay. What time of the year is that? In the
It
spring?
would be the fair during the summer,
Okay.
during a 12-day run.
Late July, August.
Yeah, we haven't had the fair for 2 years now, so whether
Right.
you get COVID under control and
Yeah.
back to some normalcy, but it's a great opportunity to have a 10,000 square foot exhibit for all 12 days of the fair.
thousands of people walk by all of the areas, and I had regular people because I always had a booth for Ross Butler Tech classes in Princeton when I was at Princeton High School. People would come by just to see what the new stuff was, what were the student projects, and I can see a booth area just for TSA. And you can either have it manned all the time or information there from National TSA. You could just, what is it? You can have a video playing in the background, just kind of, why does, and then these parents will go back to their schools and say, why don't we have this?
Right.
And I had schools calling me up because parents saw what we were doing at their Ohio State Fair.
Overall, the show has about 1,000 volunteers that are involved with doing demos and helping out, and then over 100 visitors come through the exhibits each year. So a lot of opportunity for visibility.
Okay. Great. I'll keep that in mind.
And if Lakota East wants to have a booth there just to show off their stuff,
Yeah.
do it that way and either include TSA in it or not, and just whatever.
Okay. Great. Well, yeah. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, a couple of things. One would be, does a student have to be in a TSA club to be a member? And then also, does a teacher have to be a technology education teacher to start a club?
Well, I believe the bylaws say that the students should be or must have been in some sort of engineering related course, which is pretty loose. I'm not even sure if it's the word engineering or STEM. It's a STEM related course. So I think that most students are qualified. As for the advisors, that's a great question. I know that we have some in Ohio who are not specifically, engineering or biomed or, those subjects. So I might have to get back to you on that one for the advisors.
So how would, say there's a teacher, they qualify, they have students involved or that want to become involved. How do they go about starting it then? Do they contact you? Do they go through the national TSA site?
Actually, yeah. So the state officer team and myself are in the process of updating our Ohio site. And one of our goals is to really minimize that site with just very almost one-page information. And the reason for that is because the national site does such a good job. And most of everything that you need, you can find there. So when a new chapter wants to affiliate, they go through the national site. And our Ohio site is going to be strictly, informative related to our state conference. Pretty much it. But that's a great question.
And then do they pay Ohio TSA or do they pay national TSA?
All money is paid to the national chapter, and then the chapter will turn around and cut a check to Ohio TSA for whatever that state dues portion was.
Okay.
Great.
I think that's all the questions I had.
All right.
We want to, anybody else has anything they want to say or wrap up? It's a little after 5, so but it's been great. It's so informative and just really impressive.
Yep.
Good. Thanks.
I want to thank Todd for talking today about opportunities in the Ohio TSA. And if you have any other questions, Todd, do you want to give your email address?
Yes, you can email me at Hummert, HUMMERT @butlertech.org, BUTLERTECH.org. And I want to thank you gentlemen for having me on and for all the work that you do with your organization. It's outstanding.
We'll have your contact information on our webpage so people will be able to get that.
Great.
Thanks again, Todd.
Well done.
And
Thank you.
also send us the pictures.
Okay, I will do.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.